Hi there booktube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for my October TBR. Wow. So I'm continuing with my snakes and ladders picking my TBR. I've really been enjoying doing it this way. So let's get into what the different colours will be this month. If you haven't watched my snakes and ladders picked my TBR before, you can go back to my original video where I explain a bit what goes on. But basically each colour that I land on has a different sort of prompt of a type of book that I need to pick. If I go down a snake, it means it's sort of out of my control. Someone else picks my book. And if I go down the biggest snake, that means that I have to read one of my 12 biggest books that were on my sort of list for the year. And at the end of every month I always read a graphic novel, so that's always in there as well. So for the colours this month I'm going for, if I land on a yellow, I have to pick a book off my shelf that is written by a woman, so a female author. I'd like to read more female authors, and I've got loads on my shelf, so it should open up to quite a variety of things that I can pick. If I land on white, I'm going to pick a fantasy. I've really been feeling the need for fantasy again now. I think it must be something to do with it being sort of the end of the year, it getting colder and darker. I don't know, this time of year, autumn, winter, is definitely the time where I veer towards fantasy, so I shall be picking a fantasy book. If I pick a red, then I'm going to try and clear my shelves a bit. You can't see it here, but a lot of my shelves are sort of starting to get books at the front again. It used to be that they were just flat on, and now I'm starting to get so many books in there, they're starting to sort of double stack a bit. So I'm going to use this opportunity to try and pull books out of the sections where they're starting to double stack so that I can start to clear the shelves again. So a red will mean picking a book off of one of those shelves to try and clear the double stacking. For blue, I'm going to pick a book that was on my most anticipated list of the year. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up above. I made a video talking about my most anticipated books coming out towards the end of the year. I've got quite a few now, so if I land on this, I'll be picking one of them to read, because I'd really like to read them all as soon as I can so that I can then tell you whether they lived up to my expectations or not. And if I land on green, I am going to pick a book that I hauled in September. I want to get to some of those newer ones while they're really fresh and sort of buzzy in my brain, and I'm really looking forward to them. So if I land on a green, I will be going back over my book hauls from September. I think there was 2 that I did, and I will be picking a book from that haul to read in the month. Okay, so that's all of the prompts. Let's go over to the Snakes and Ladders board and see what I end up picking. Okay, so a book that is taking up shelf on my space. Shelf on my space? Space on my shelf. Virtually Yours by Cervenza Tash. I think this is a romance story, maybe about some sort of virtual sort of romance dating app. I'm not sure, but it's been blocking the space, so it needed to come off. Okay, so these are books that are off of my most anticipated reads. I'm going to read Chinglish, an almost entirely true story by Sue Chung. This is the story of a girl that lives in a Chinese restaurant, and I think it's going to be a fun, fast-paced YA. Okay, so a fantasy read. I'm going to pick up The State of Sorrow by Melinda Salisbury. I don't know too much about this. I think it's something to do with a place called Sorrow that governs the court of tears. Oh, Sorrow is a person. Okay, so Sorrow is a person who governs the court of tears. It's bound to have some romance in there. I don't know much, but keep watching me this month to find out. I'm sure I will be telling you at some point. Okay, so a fantasy. So I'm going to go for Shades of Milk and Honey. This is the first in a series by Mary Robinette Kowal. I believe it's sort of a Regency, yeah, Regency England. A bit of a Pride and Prejudice feel, but with magic. Okay, a book by a female author. I'm going to read The Slayer by Kirsten White. This has got a sort of Buffy the Vampire vibe to it. It is YA, I believe, and it's very much following that sort of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah, it says from the world of Buffy the Vampire, so actually it is set in the same world as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so that is awesome. Okay, so a fantasy. I'm going for Renegades by Melissa Mayer. I've been meaning to read this for ages, and it's just never happened, so it's gonna happen this month. I think it's a YA fantasy with two sworn enemies who end up falling in love. I mean, I could have told you that. Okay, so it's another female author, and for that I'm going to read this book, Vendetta by Catherine Doyle. I've had this on my shelf for ages. I think it's sort of a Romeo and Juliet type story, but set with sort of mafioso. It says, this book in 3 words: thrilling, dangerous romance. Okay, so it's one of those books that's covering my shelves that needs to stop double stacking. I've picked The Bombshell Effect by Carla Sorensen. This is a steamy romance, a sports romance, I believe. Don't know much more, but I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so a book that is double stacking. I'm going to go for Rosie Interrupted by Patrice Lawrence. This is a book that I didn't pick up that long ago. It's YA. It's about a 17-year-old Rose and her 13-year-old brother Rudder, and it's about them escaping a strict religious sect. Okay, a book that is blocking my shelves. I'm going to go for Nothing But the Truth by Dick Lair. This is about somebody who believes that their father was convicted of murder and he didn't do it, and this is sort of the story of them looking to uncover the secrets of what happened, I think. Okay, so Jamie is going to pick me a book because I've gone down a snake, and Matilda is currently busy, my usual picker. Okay, so I think he picked this one for the name. Sweet Filthy Boy by Christina Lauren. I've been wanting to read this one for quite a while. It's the start, I believe, of a sort of series. I've heard good things, and it's, yeah, you know, I think it's about a girl who has a one-night stand with a Frenchman and then ends up spending the summer with him. Don't quote me on that, but it's a bit of a sort of saucy, steamy romance, so I look forward to getting through that one. Okay, so one of the books that I have picked off my books that I need to read before the end of the year, or the ones I want to, my 12 big ones, is Evelina by Frances Burney. I don't know an awful lot about this. I just heard that it was a really good classic, and it's been on my shelf for a while, so this will give me the push to pick this one up this month. Okay, so it's a book off my September book haul, and I'm going to be picking up Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is the story of a Korean American boy struggling to come to terms with the rules and regulations his family set for him in terms of his love life, and perhaps some ways he goes about getting round this. I think it's going to be a love story, but also with a bit of a look into the Korean American experience. Okay, Okay, a book that's blocking my shelf. I'm going for The Lonely Hearts Cinema Club by David M. Barnett. This just looks really cool. It's about a 20-year-old. She's struggling to make friends at university, and so she ends up moving into this private nursing home, and so her roommates are a little bit older than she expects, and I just think this sounds so sweet. And it's about time I get to the next one in this series. I've got it on audiobook as well, so it works well, and that's Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas. This is the next in the series that I need to read in this series by Sarah J Maas, the Throne of Glass novels, and I'm looking forward to carrying on. Okay, so a book off my September book haul. I'm going to read Somewhere Only We Know by Maureen Gu. This is a book about a K-pop star meeting a journalist. I think it is a tabloid journalist. There might be some romance in there, but a nice YA contemporary. Okay, so a book off of my a September book haul. I believe in a thing called Love by Maureen Gu. I'm going to read another Maureen Gu. This one is about a girl who wants to experience romance for the first time, and watches a lot of K-dramas and decides to follow the K-drama rules, I think, about finding love. Okay, so it's another fantasy. I'm going to be taking The Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. This is the next one that I need to read in this series. I've got it on audiobook, and so it'll be great as one of my audio picks for the month. Okay, so another fantasy. I'm going to go for Pivot Point by Casey West. I think this is a fantasy. It's about a girl who can see sort of the outcomes of the future, I think. So fantastical. It's got some sort of magic going on. Okay, a book that is blocking my shelves. I'm going for The Little Shop of Happy Ever After by Jenny Colgan. This is what might be classed as sort of a chick lit book, but I think I'm going to be in the mood for this given how this Snakes and Ladders is currently going. And it's another snake. Off you go, pick another one. Okay, so Jamie picked The Wicked Deep by Shea Earnshaw. This is a YA fantasy where I think there was something to do with witchcraft. Witches got drowned, so now they come back for their revenge, and every summer they take 3 girls and they drag all these boys to their deaths. Okay, a book that's blocking my shelf. I'm going for A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Bernard. This has been on my shelf forever. It's about time I get to it. I love her books. I love her writing. I don't know much at all about this one. I think it's about someone who doesn't talk and someone who can't hear, and their sort of relationship. Another one off of my most anticipated list, and for that I am going to pick Margaret Atwood, The Testaments. I've wanted to read this. It's about time. I'm going to revisit the story of The Handmaid's Tale first very briefly, and then move on to this one, and I can't wait. Blimey, it's a third snake, so you're going to be picking most of my books, I think. Can you pick another one, please? Oh, he's straight in there. Straight in there. Thankfully, Jamie picked a short one for me. So this is a novella. I think it's about 237 pages. It's called Beacon 23 by Hugh Howey. I really loved Hugh Howey's series Wool. Or actually, it wasn't called Wool, but the first book in the series was Wool. And this just sounds brilliant. It's about these lighthouses in space. another book by a female author. I'm going to read the second book because it'd be nice to read this duology in a month. Inferno by Catherine Doyle. I can't tell you what it's about because it's the one that comes after Vendetta, so I will try and read this one. Okay, so another fantasy. So I'm going to finish off that Pivot Point duology with Split Second by Casey West. Just when you think it's over, you get to pick another one. Please make it nice and be kind. Duh, not funny.
Are these all books you haven't read?
Yeah.
Let's go low. With Optimists Die First.
Okay, so Jamie picked Optimists Die First. This is one that I picked up not that long ago. It's sort of a YA contemporary story about Petunia, who sort of is a pessimist, and I think she meets an optimist, and I think it's about sort of the relationship that they form together. It's about time I finally get to the next in this series, so I will pick this off of my books that were on my list to read for the end of the year. It's Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. I just want to see where this world has gone, what's happened to Darrow since sort of Morning Star ended. It's a meaty one, but these books always fly by because they're just so readable. Blocking my shelf. I'm going to read the sequel to Beautiful Broken Things by Sarah Bernard, and I'm going to read Fierce Fragile Hearts. I can't tell you too much about this because I don't want to spoil the first one, but it's a really good YA contemporary with some really strong themes of mental illness and various other things going on there, domestic abuse, and I really enjoyed the first one. Okay, another book by a female author. I'm going to pick up Gypsy Girl by Catherine James. This has been on my TBR for absolutely ages. It's about a gypsy girl, and I think it's just going to be a YA contemporary story. Another one from my anticipated reads. I'm waiting for this one in the post, but I'm going to read Butterfly Girl by Renee Denfeld. This is the second in a sort of series, a sort of crime-ish series. I really enjoyed the first one, so I'm going to pick up this one. Okay, books blocking my shelf. I'm going to be reading Just Visiting by Dahlia Adler. I can't remember what this one's about. It's someone who wants out of their trailer park and their freeloading mother, and then somebody else who wants to go to a design program. It's about best friends, they're opposites. I think it's at that time when they're just about to go off to college. They want different things. Are they going to stick together or split apart? So I think it's going to be a real story of friendship. Off of my highly anticipated book video that I did. For this one, I'm waiting for this one to come in the post, and so I'm going to be reading Furious Things by Jenny Downham. This is a YA contemporary story, I think about a girl with anger issues. I'm looking forward to reading this one. I really like Jenny's writing. Okay, another female author, and for that I'm going for the second one in the series Gypsy Girl. This is Gypsy Girl Revenge by Catherine James. It would be nice to finish this duology, and so I'm going to pick up this one. Okay, so another fantasy. I'm going to pick The Beckoning Shadow by Catherine Blair. This was a recent subscription box pick for me, and I've heard lots of people recently talking about how good this is. I think this is about some sort of fight that the main protagonist has to get involved in, and the prize is something really important. You can do something, go back in the past and change something, and I think she can she can control, oh, she can summon your worst fear and turn it into reality. So that sounds like a pretty interesting superpower. Okay, so a book off my September haul. I'm going for Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is really short. One of the reasons why I've picked it, because this month is going to be super hard, but also because it sounds brilliant. It's about a coffee shop where you drink the coffee. Maybe it sends you back in time or to the past. I think this sounds brilliant. Okay, a book that's blocking my shelf. I'm going to go for What to Say Next by Julie Boxhorn. This is the story of, it says Opposites Attract. It's about two people, a boy and a girl who meet. I think this might have autism as a theme. There might be a character who is autistic. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll let you know when I've read it. Okay, so a book off my September haul. I'm going to go for The Girl Who Came Out of the Woods by Emily Barr. This sounds really good. It's about a girl who's grown up in India in this matriarchal, hidden sort of society, and then something happens to everyone. They start to get this sort of disease, and she needs to go out into the real world and try and find help. And I think there's all sorts of things that go on when she does. It sounds fascinating. I mean, that was just a ridiculously large amount of books. I'm not even sure how many it was now, but it's going to be a really tough time this month. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Yeah, I'm hopefully going to do it, but I very much doubt it. So it may be that some of these roll over into next month, but I'm going to give it a good go. I'm going to try my best, but I'm going to have to be really focused. So October, I'm coming at you. Yeah, do you think I can do it? Give me a thumbs up if you think I can do it, and send me some positive love. I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.